Hi, everybody. Hey, thanks for watching CHOPZ on Bloomfield Community TV, talking about all things music. My name's Kat, and I have a few announcements I want to make. This is our 5th month. This is my 5th month doing this show, and I've been having a great time doing it. And I wanted to let you know about a few shows coming up. My band recently played the Blind Owl. My band is the Cat Orlando Band. We had a wonderful time there and hope to return there soon. What you have to do is go to my website, catorlando.com, and be on the lookout for our next show at Blind Owl. And all the different places we play at will be under the Schedule tab on catorlando.com. Now, the next band show will be at the Crystal Bar in Westland. That'll be December 20th. And we'll be getting ready to party for Christmas, so you got to show up and help us celebrate the Christmas holiday at the Crystal Bar in Westland. Now, also on the horizon, coming up in December, look for my buddy keyboard player Brian O'Neill. He was recently on the show, and he'll be doing his last live performance, and that'll be called the Cessation 2024 concert on December 14 at the Silver Gardens Event Center in Southfield. So look for Brian O'Neill, December 14 in Southfield. And so now stick around, we got some guests coming up. Hi there, you're watching CHOPZ, and that's my show that is everything music, talking about the lifestyle, the songs, the business, and a lot of fun. I'm your host, Kat Orlando, and I'm a musician myself, so I know a thing or two about it, and it's especially exciting to bring around my friends I've known in the Detroit area that I've been sharing music, the same musical stages around town, like this gentleman right here. He's a singer, songwriter, and writing very thought-provoking lyrics and singing them in this very smooth voice. Welcome, Jeff Scott.
Kat, thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. And, I did my own little thing there. You tell everybody in your words what you do, who you are, and what you do.
What I do,
What do you
who
do?
I am. I am a classic singer-songwriter guy. A lot of emphasis on the songwriting. And I perform solo, but I perform primarily with a band that I have.
Right.
And doing it mostly original music. Couple of covers that are near and dear to my heart, and
Right.
So we're having a good time with it.
I love your music. And
Thank
that's
you.
why I wanted to call you up. and have
Thank you very
over here.
much. Yeah.
I always like to go back to an artist's musical beginning, So what initially drew you into music, maybe influences or people in your life, for instance?
Yeah, so we had I have 2 older sisters, and I have a younger brother, but he didn't come around for a while. But my house was filled with music. My parents were big music lovers.
Oh, okay.
I think my mom had sung with like a big band group while she was in high school. My dad was very into jazz and big band. My mother was into movie themes and sort of the big male vocalists of the time. And then I had these 2 older sisters who were listening to a range of, what was then early pop music and
Okay, right.
rock and roll and soul music and everything else. So that was really my introduction to music. I got into it when I was 5, and I started out, little music programs at elementary school. And
Okay.
I started out on drums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was really into that. And about 3 years later, I asked my parents for a guitar. And
Okay.
that sort of consumed my whole life. I kept playing drums at school for a few years, but learned guitar, some guy on the street taught me chords and
Okay, right.
started to sing, which was odd for everybody. And then when I was 12, my best friend and I formed a band.
12 years old,
And
okay.
actually had our first gig. So it was a band called Nimbus. And he and I are still friends after all these years.
Okay.
But that was sort of the beginning of it. And
Yeah.
really the focus was more on singing than on playing. But I was I could get along,
Oh, okay.
The-
You're the second player that I've spoken to between now and the last show that started on drums and then moved on to
Oh, really?
another
Okay.
instrument.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a great preparation, though,
Yeah, it is.
because I primarily became a rhythm guitarist. So
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you've got to really be locked in.
Timing.
Timing.
Absolutely.
That's
That's
exactly
the
right.
foundation right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I play on an electronic kit myself, and,
Yeah.
and it really works with the other things that you do, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to, I'm also a big fan not of you, but also of when I first saw you, Jeff Scott in the Big Picture. I was big fan because I first moved back from California back to the Detroit area, and I went to karate's.
Right.
And I think that's where I first saw you and the Big Picture Band, and I was just like, wow, these guys are amazing. And I think that's when I first met Dwayne Harlick.
Yeah,
too. So,
yeah.
a great band.
Yeah, we were really serious about it. I mean, we were, and I think that we had something special. I really
Yeah.
do. I think there was a great chemistry, and we were, I think we were one of the few bands in town that ultimately ended up doing original music, a lot of it, and it was a high energy pop soul band, and we ended up doing really, really well. I had a couple of records out, and I met Dwayne through the recording studio that I had
okay.
done these records at, and so when time came to put something together, he got some people, I got another person, and formed this thing. And the great thing was we went on to win this national contest. We won a national contest that Marlboro had sponsored.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So we had to go down to Nashville and compete against the 4 other regional finalist bands, and we won. And then they ended up putting us on tour with a lot of different people. So
Oh, wow.
we did big festivals. We did opening act stuff for a lot of different people, and it was a good run. It was really good.
Did I see Smokey Robinson as one of the
Yeah.
acts?
Smokey Robinson, Hall & Oates.
Wow. Eddie Money.
Eddie Money.
Wow. Yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
And a few more people. Richard Marx, people like that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good time for music back then.
Sure was,
And
yeah.
even locally, would you agree that you could play more of your own material even locally back then, or?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you found you introduce people to your sound really through doing covers and things like that, and then you were able to introduce your own material into the sets and
Okay,
find acceptance that way.
right, right.
But we succumbed to what ends every band, which was just sort of this clash of ideas about where the band was going to go
Oh, okay.
and what kind of material we were going to do, and
Sure. Typical band stuff, right?
Yeah. So I ended up leaving.
Oh, okay.
They
Was-
kept it together for some
Oh, okay.
time.
Well, I mean, it was the Jeff Scott band, but then eventually, like, the person in charge or whoever was running with the band took it over, because that happened to me. I was like, here, take my band.
Well, it
I'm
was
outta here.
we were pretty democratic in terms of
Oh,
our
okay.
approach, but Dwayne and I were sort of, I think, seen as the primary leaders.
Okay.
But they were able to keep going on because Dwayne and the keyboard player had written a lot of the material together,
Sure. Okay.
right? And,
Okay.
and it was later in the game that I started introducing songs into the mix for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they kept going with all their original stuff that they had done,
Right.
and they kept it up for another, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It usually gets down to who's got the gigs, who's got the material, who's got the transportation and the equipment, and
Yeah, that's right.
wins.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
yeah.
like, but no, but bands in general, they do tend to change. On another note, let's go back again a little ways, because
Sure.
here we are in Bloomfield Hills
Right.
at the studio, and years ago, you were a guest on what was Orthea Barnes'
Yeah.
show way
Yeah.
back when.
Yeah, it was. She ended up being. If you're not familiar with her, were you familiar with her?
remember.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think people in Detroit would know, of a certain age would know who she was.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was really the primary entertainer in this area for a long time, and
Yeah.
she ended up having her own club down on 8 Mile, and
I would go there.
yeah, I would go there all the time too. But she became a mentor for me, which was very
Oh, really?
odd
Okay.
for a young guy in that position, because she invited me into a lot of situations to sing where she was exposing me to a lot of people that I never
Oh.
would have been able to perform for
Wow.
before. So I think so she started her show here, and she invited me on as a guest one day. But that
Oh,
was
okay.
probably back in it had to have been the late 80s, early 90s. It was a
Okay.
long time ago.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, but she was a really sweet woman, and I owe a lot to her. I met a lot of people
Wow.
through her that I'm still in touch with. And,
Oh, wow, yeah.
you know Al Turner, the bass
Yes, I
player?
do. Yeah.
Al, the Burner Turner,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Al Duncan, and guys like that were playing with
Oh, okay.
her. And she had a group for a while with Millie Scott called Cut Glass.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might not have been around here at
Really
the time.
just
but,
great, well done R&B and
Yeah.
soul music. Great stuff, you know.
When I moved back, like I said, I did go to, I think it was, well, it might have been Axel's at that point. Maybe it was
Okay.
Dorothea's place at the time. But I did see her film, they call it tape or film, one of her shows, but that was in Madison Heights at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, I do remember her doing that. And so there's also been, just switching over to another subject here a little bit, a lot of changes for all of us and how we all perform and everything, solo and band and everything. So you go between playing in a band and as a solo performer. And did that kind of happen from when you got out of music for a minute to be in advertising, or was it before that?
Yeah, it's funny. I had been in advertising the whole time. Even when
Oh,
we
I
had the
know.
big picture, I was working in advertising.
Oh, okay.
And, but it was, I think a lot of things converged. So I left music for a long time,
Okay.
like 17 years.
Oh, wow.
I didn't do it. And when I did get back into doing it, what I was most interested in doing is just becoming a much better songwriter.
Okay.
So I ended up spending time in Nashville, and
Right.
found out I really didn't know much of anything, and came back and woodshed here for some months and months and months, and rewrote songs, and really relearned how to play acoustic guitar and things such as that. But I think what happened was, while I was coming back into it, I think that the sort of Nashville idea of songwriters in the round performing their own stuff
Yeah.
was starting to take effect, in cities like Detroit, because that
Okay.
was something that never really had happened before. You see them all the time now.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
There were a lot of songwriters in the round kind of thing.
The open mic nights sort of
Well, yeah.
thing, or more professional.
I think more
Open mic,
professional
yeah.
than that. But when I did get back into doing music, I did go do some open mic stuff, just because I thought, well, nobody will know me, and I can fail, and
You just experiment.
right, just experiment.
Yeah.
So, when I got back, I ended up doing an album, and I reunited with Dwayne during the making of that
Okay.
album, because I got to a point, I'm like, boy, I really need him on this, So after that, people were interested in hearing me perform my stuff.
Okay.
So he had been performing with a bunch of guys who were just a great rhythm section, and they learned all my material, and we went and started to do shows together.
Right. What year?
That would have been 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see where you and Dwayne would play off of each other too.
Yeah,
He's a songwriter himself as
I
well.
think there's just a sensibility there. But
Yeah.
so my song started to get out there, and
Okay.
then at that point, I started to be invited to do these songwriter in the round kind of things.
Oh, nice.
And then, or can you come perform a solo set and that kind of thing. So then it became interchangeable,
Okay.
And the nice thing is that while I love to present my music with the band, because that's the sound I'm hearing in my head,
Sure.
these other things are more song focused, so you can go do them solo and
Right.
make your point that way.
It's nice to have that option.
Yeah.
You can just, hey, this is my backup right here.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
self-contained like that.
Yeah.
But back to the advertising thing, because I'm fascinated with that business in itself, How did, so you weren't playing music at that time. I was going to ask you, how did you balance it? And you just told me you didn't do that.
Well, I was balancing it for a long time.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and then I didn't have to balance it for a while,
right.
sort of purposefully.
Were they cool about, was it cool to be able to do that? Like, hey, I play in a band, I got to go.
Yeah, I mean, they were
4:00.
always very
Oh,
accepting
nice.
of it. They knew I did it, and I think they got a kick out of the fact that I did it.
Nice.
So they were very supportive of it. And then after I had left and I got back into doing music, then I left advertising for like 2 years, and I got back into doing it. And the person eventually wanted to hire me. And in fact, it's still the place where I'm working today. But I said to him, I said, look, I'm not going to give up my music stuff to help you out.
I wish I could have said that.
They're
like, okay, go.
And he was like, hey, man, I love your music. No, I wouldn't
nice.
ever ask you to do that,
Yeah.
So
See, that's cool.
I've really lucked out that way.
Yeah.
So it was very.
Yeah. Did you ever do any jingles in connection with that side of the business over there?
Yeah, so I started out in creative. I was a writer for a long time.
Okay.
And then got into sort of creative supervision, and then moved into just because I had a facility for it, I moved into the businessy side of the business. But I sang jingles for Dan Yessian.
Oh, you did?
Back in the day. So,
nice.
Miss Sibley and a bunch of other stuff. There was another guy in town named Jeff Parsons that I sang.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then Joe LaDuca.
Oh, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I got a nice gig through Buddy Butson and Ursula Walker.
Oh, okay.
Had been hired to do all of the music for a series that was one of the original series on Fox.
Really?
And they were looking for a male vocalist to do these bumpers, all the music in between the scenes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Never any words. It was just sort of jazz riffs vocally.
Wow, that's cool.
So I got hired to do that, and that was a great little experience. Back to answer your question. Yeah, I have had some involvement in being a part of choosing music for clients, campaigns, and stuff like that.
Nice.
So.
So now to your music, tell us about your latest release, the songs, like your latest song and maybe the story behind it. What was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm All Right With This World?
Yeah, so that's actually
Okay.
this past year I've been
All right.
releasing singles. So I released I'm All Right With This World last December. And then I've released 2 more singles since then, sort of like one every quarter,
Okay.
But the story behind that was, I think, like a lot of people, because of the pandemic and because of other world events and things like that, I had really found myself sort of obsessed with bad news for some time.
Yeah, right.
And I just decided that I really had to very purposefully change my outlook on things, to be present,
Yep.
to look around and be grateful for the things that were in my life and the people who were in my life. So the song is really about that. There's a line in there that, I'm okay, yes, I'm fine at this particular moment,
Right.
at this particular time. Tomorrow may change my mind, but right now I'm all right with this world.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm all right. Yes, I'm fine. This particular moment, this particular time. Tomorrow may change my mind. But right now I'm all right with this world.
And I ended up taking some heat for the song.
Really?
Because they thought, well, how dare you say that you're okay with all the things that are going on?
You're kidding.
I said, and I explained it just like I explained it to you. It was like,
Yeah.
you have to you can't be carrying the weight of the world around on your back all the time.
Yeah.
You gotta,
But I mean, like,
Yeah.
okay, so who? I mean, like somebody out in the audience, hey, what do you mean by that?
I did a show like right around the time I released it, and the other artist on the bill made a very public comment about it, and I thought, hey
Really?
man, yeah.
Wow.
So
Huh.
I thought, I'm choosing to release this.
You're the artist. You could say what the heck,
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, as it turns out, so that was about a year ago.
Okay.
People have found comfort in the song.
Well, I think
know.
it's how relevant can it be?
Yeah.
Really now,
Yeah, so, I'm happy I released it.
Yeah. I'm at that same point where, like, okay, I got to get away from the political slant. I mean, mine are not literal by any means, but there's still that. There's still social commentary. Like, okay, I'm done with this stuff,
Yeah, this wasn't social commentary. I mean,
Right.
It was
right.
about having
No,
lost
I mean, not you,
people,
but I
yeah.
mean, but you were at that point of acceptance.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
okay, I'm going
Right.
to make a conscious effort to change my outlook.
Yeah.
And you wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
And it's very relevant for
So that was a very heavy tune, and then I
Yeah.
did a very sort of mid-tempo soul ballad thing, which people also sort of dug. And then a few months ago, I released a thing called "Maybe Love's Enough," which is I'm proud of. I like the song, and it's been going over well live, and so I'm happy
okay.
about that. Yeah,
nice. So back to Nashville.
yeah.
And you've done some work over there, and were those collaborations when you went there, or?
Well, I started
was that
going
like?
down there for the open mics, right?
Oh, that's
And-
right.
And,
Okay.
and then I performed for some people, and I ended up signing with a song pusher, right? So these are
Okay.
agencies that push your tunes
A&R,
to.
would that be considered A&R? Or?
No,
Oh.
there's sort of this intermediary position down there
Oh, okay.
where they represent songwriters and they get your work to artists that they know are in the midst of making an album and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So I did that for a while, and during the course of that relationship, they would set me up for what are called co-writes.
Oh,
So like, oh, Jeff, you would write well with Kat, so you guys need to set that up and see what happens.
Oh.
And, so I did a few of those. I had, for the 2 or 3 years that I spent going down there, I had one song that was put on hold, which is what the artist does when they're considering it for inclusion on their album.
oh, all right.
But it takes it out of the running for anybody else, so it's sort of,
Oh, okay.
is prohibited from pitching it to anybody else. That never got recorded, to the best of my knowledge.
Oh, okay. You were making some inroads there, but
Yeah,
I know that how
yeah,
that goes.
and I think even better than that, I became friends with other songwriters down there that I
Right.
continue, a relationship with to this day, and I've
Great.
continued to write with them occasionally and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's been really beneficial that way, I think.
Yeah, out of the three meccas for, LA, New York, and Nashville, I always, for some reason, I wrote off Nashville as a possibility. I guess I thought it was always country, but then I kept hearing other things, that it's more musically diverse than just country. And
It is,
yeah,
yeah, it
yes.
is.
I only visited there a couple days, but I did stop in a couple places that were all about writers.
Yeah.
And I saw pictures on the wall, and people just hang out and just write, and what a great environment to be in.
I had a funny thing. I was down there once, and the band had asked me to come up to sing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're flipping through tunes that I might sing with them, and we ended up on "Wind Beneath My Wings." Right?
Okay.
So I ended up doing the tune with them, and people liked it. And some young woman came up to me as I was getting off stage. She says, "You have to come to my table." I'm like, "Oh, okay," And there's this older guy sitting at the table, and she goes, "I want you to meet one of the people that wrote that song." I'm like, "Oh my God,"
I wouldn't be surprised.
So that's that town, You
Yeah.
never really know who you're talking to or who's in the audience.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, back back to Detroit too. I always like to ask this question, which might be kind of controversial, but what are your views on the local music scene here, and as far as where it's at now, where it was, and, you know.
Admittedly, I don't know a lot of what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Just because I am in my own little insulated world writing songs. And,
Gotcha, okay.
and there are certain sort of venues that I go to. What I feel, based on what I'm seeing, is back in the day when we had our bands,
Right.
There were dozens of places to play.
Right.
And there every night, potentially.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You mentioned Karate's. I mean, we were the house band there. We were playing 4 or 5 nights a week there.
That was a cool
But there were a dozen other places just like that you could get a gig. It was,
Right.
I think it was a time when you could support yourself on music
Yes.
if you wanted to do that. And I don't see that being the case at all anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know I do not know what's happening with the hip hop community or any of that thing. But I know for like just sort of mainstream pop, which just doesn't even exist anymore, or soul, I don't know what people are doing, to get gigs. It's very difficult.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
It's well, there's just like these little areas, and it has to be a certain. It can't be like a big band, or this
Right.
limited for bigger bands,
Right.
limited for original bands for sure. And so I'm always trying to come up with some, like, okay, what did we do back then? Well, of course, we're all older. What can we do now to, maybe put on our own shows? But that's
Well,
a
yeah.
lot of work too,
Well, yeah.
So
I mean,
gotta
I
be a
started doing
promoter.
that back in 2011. I was like,
Right.
well, these places don't want me because I'm playing mostly original music.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just figure out a way to put my own shows on and
Yeah.
lease places out and sell tickets.
Okay.
And I've been really lucky. I mean, there are certain theaters and listening rooms in town that want me back, and then there are other, relationships I've got where, like Luigi's in Royal Oak.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I've
And,
done.
Trinity House, is that?
And
another
Trinity
one?
House is they're an
Okay.
amazing community theater that
Okay.
is booking musical acts year round.
All right.
I played there many, many times, and Black Crystal Cafe in Ann Arbor is a private listening room. Played there a lot.
Oh, okay.
So but in lieu of being booked into those established places, then I take a look at the calendar and go, I need to do my own show right now.
Right. Right.
And
Because you
those
want to
have been
stay visible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and those have been
exactly.
successful.
Yeah.
You can't do them every weekend.
Right. Right.
So, but that's
It's a big
okay.
production to,
Yeah,
to
it
keep
is,
up after,
yeah.
and the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
So writing wise, how do you approach writing? Like, what's your process? Lyrics, music, or at the same time?
All of those.
Okay, at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it really the idea of the thing is sort of what drives it. So, I'll have a melodic melody, and then I'll come back and flesh that out, and then come back and write words for it.
Okay.
I will say, 60% of the time it starts as a lyric idea
Oh, okay. Mhm.
that, I'll get to a certain point with, and then sit down with a guitar at the piano and figure out where it needs to be from a musical perspective.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
sometimes they come together. The single I'm All Right With This World, which we've discussed,
Mhm.
that took me, I don't know, 2.5 months to write, because I wanted to be so particular about the words. I kept going back and editing and editing and editing
Yeah.
and editing.
Right.
The single I followed up with, called As Long As I'm Near You, or what, I can't remember the title now, but I wrote it in 2 minutes. I wrote it in as
Right.
long as the song takes to play.
Isn't that something?
You
Some
know.
of them are like, bam.
I know, and
Yeah.
and it sat as a little demo for
Uh-huh.
3 years before
Okay.
I said, I'm going to do this tune. I'm going to record this tune. It'll be a fun little change.
Nice.
But I have.
Do you like file, keep titles?
Oh, look,
Yeah.
I've got
On
so
your
two
phone, yeah.
two things are going on here.
Oh, okay.
there's
I was going to ask you about your next
Yeah.
project, so there we go.
well, no, but so those are all ideas,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Those are all ideas,
Yeah.
and so that's from where I've actually sat down with a guitar, or piano, and I've got some things going on, and then on my notes thing, these are, it's all lyric ideas. So that's the big sort of fertile ground.
Yeah, you gotta keep that library going on in one form
Yeah,
or another.
yeah, and I keep going back to it. I mean, there's some stuff
Yeah.
I've gone back to a long time after I originally put it in here.
Right.
You know,
I'm tempted to dig up my notebooks going way back.
you should,
Yeah.
you should.
And just see if I can stumble across
Yeah.
something like that. So, where can people find your music at? I mean, you do have a
I
website.
do have a website. It is
Okay.
jeffscottmusic.com.
Okay.
I'm on Spotify and Pandora and YouTube
All
and
the sites.
Amazon, all the socials and all the sites, all
All
the
right.
platforms. And then, that's about it, I guess, in
Okay.
terms of finding the music.
And you have maybe a show coming up at Caju Cafe? Or
Yeah, I
some
think we're
things in the
scheduled
works?
end of April
Okay.
at Caju Cafe on the east side.
Okay.
There may be stuff prior to that. I'm not quite sure yet.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
So everybody, you have to check out Jeff Scott's website for his shows coming up. Thanks, Jeff Scott.
Thank
for
you, Kat
coming on to
Orlando.
the show.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you all later on CHOPZ.
Well, I bought the little white house up the road from where I was born years ago. Life is what happens when you're making plans. Take a look at me, I'm the man walking the streets of my little hometown. Finally gonna settle down. Doesn't matter now where I was or what I did. You can call me to come back here. I could not wait to make my great escape. Get 1,000 long miles from this place. Never looked back, never thought twice. Had to move on fast, live my life. Every now and then a memory find its way back to me, reminding me who I was, where I've been. You can call me to come back here. Call me to come back here. Oh, time had its way. Slow me down, show me what was real. So I feel. Now I can watch the soft blue TV lights pouring through picture windows on winter nights. Hear the sweet soft laughter from inside, the screams in the porches in summertime. Now I got all that and more again. Hooray, I say my prayer.